Welcome, everybody, to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this week for craft beer and conversations. If you're joining us for the live stream, we'd love to hear your thoughts, hear what you're drinking. Feel free to chime in the comments. I am Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt. How you doing this week?
I'm doing well. I'm a little tired today.
Fatigued?
Yeah, a little tired. It's my own fault. I tried to jam too much stuff into yesterday, so I ended up staying up too late. So I had more things to do than I had time to do it in, and
I got
it was a bad choice on my part, bad time management, and I'm paying for a little bit tonight. But I'm all right. I'm drinking a beer now. It's fine.
I've made a terrible mistake, Brian. So
I
did
have.
you do St. Patrick's Day festivities this week on St. Patrick's Day?
On St. Patrick's Day, I did in fact have a Guinness. That was the.
Okay.
You know what?
Well,
I had a Guinness. which was lovely, and I put that on social
Sure.
media. A lot of people liked it, which they should. And I also had picked up in kind of a mad dash over the weekend a bottle of Bushmills Black Bush. I'm a fan of that one. I think I prefer that to Jameson. I figured that out at some point ago. I know it's probably blasphemy or something like that. So I picked one up. It turns out that the one I picked up was the sherry cask reserve. I'd never had that before.
One.
And so I drank some of that, and I'm like, this is really nice. It's like, I forgot it was this good. I looked at it, it's like, no, this is a different one. So I got a super special
All right.
Bushmills Black Bush. So, yeah, pretty happy with that.
From your palate memory, was it different, better than your other Black Bush?
I am a sucker for a sherry cask, so it adds sherry notes to it. Yes, it's better. It's pretty decadent. I like Black Bush a fair amount, and it tastes like an Irish whiskey to me. It's not just all like sherry or anything like that. So. Honestly, I don't remember what I paid for it. I just it's one of those things where I went in there. I'm like, I need an Irish whiskey, and the price is the price. I knew it wasn't super expensive. I want to say 40 or 50 or whatever it was. So it probably wasn't much more expensive than the regular one, or I just wasn't paying attention. Either way, good call on my part. Accident that worked out really well. So I failed successfully at that.
Yeah, that's one of those that you know it's not going to be crazy expensive. You knew what you wanted.
Yeah.
Or you thought you did. You grabbed the wrong one, but you were close there. So we were talking about that earlier this week with gas prices because they're going up all over the place. And
yeah.
I don't really look at gas prices most of the time because I need gas, and I've got a gas station that is convenient to me and that I trust to have decent gas. And I don't think it's as big a problem anymore. But back in the late 1900s, there was rumors or maybe it's just where I lived, of places like watering down gas and stuff. And I think this may have been during the big gas shortage, way back in the even earlier late 1900s when they had it. So the rumors,
the 1970s?
I think that would have been back in the 70s. But I remember my father saying like there were certain service stations he wouldn't go to because he said he didn't trust the gas, or things there. But I haven't heard people say that much anymore. Like you need to check it out. But I always go to, we've got a chain called QT here, Quick Trip. We've talked about it before. They got their quitting time.
Quitting time, yeah.
That they do. So they also have gas, beer and gas.
And coffee too, which is nice.
So, but anyhow, I normally just fill up, and I have paid attention because the prices went up considerably, and really just looking out of more of a curiosity, because I really don't have a choice. If I need a tank of gas, I need a tank of gas. And, driving to the other side of town defeats the purpose of saving 10 cents a gallon or something like that.
That's kind of my philosophy. You can look at it. I know if I go to certain gas stations, they're not going to be as much of a gouge as other places. I know that. I've got the places I go. I don't look at the price for the same reason. I'm not going to get agitated every time I fill up. It is what it is. I don't necessarily like it. I remember times when it was cheaper, but I just don't want to add that stress to my life. I'm like, I have to have this. I know this place typically gives me a good deal, so whatever they're charging is what I gotta pay. And I just I'll let my life. I'll just continue on with my life. Occasionally I look at the receipt and like, ooh, that's
that hurt,
but
that stings a little bit.
Dang.
Well, that's I think a lot. I've heard you mention before. You get gas when you come out to visit me here in the burbs, so you don't have to pay those city prices there.
Exactly right. Somewhere right in the middle of it, away from the highways. I'm like, boom, that's my QT. I stop there. I pick up my quitting time when I want to, or occasionally something else, one of my long beers, and I do the whole thing. I make it a whole. It's just kind of the ritual. So yeah,
And as Tyler mentioned, QT also has pretzels. Very good.
yeah, they do. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Well, Brian, St. Patrick's Day. So we went out and we did some celebrating last weekend, because it fell on a Tuesday. A lot of places had their festivities over the weekend there. But there's a Irish pub up near me, Keegan's, I think it's called. I think I
yeah.
a shout out unless I got their name wrong, but we've hit there a few times. They're a pretty solid joint. The food's good, the beer's good, and they had the traditional corned beef and cabbage, traditional American
That's right. Yeah.
for St. Patrick's Day, bangers and mash, and so I think they had shepherd's pie and some other stuff. They got good cheese curds there, Brian,
Yes,
and
definitely.
so I
Yeah.
enjoy their cheese curds. And got a pint of Guinness there. They had a few of your 50/50s or half and halves or whatever they like to call them. I think they had some that are a little bit unique. You got one, didn't you? Didn't you get a little blend there?
I did. I had to get the Black Bush. No, was that Black Bush? No,
I don't think so.
Blacksmith. Sorry, the Black
There you
Bush is
go.
the whiskey. Blacksmith
Yes.
is Smithwick's and Guinness. I love
All
that
right.
combination, and they have it. They have a variety of them. They have one with Sweetwater 420 called the Dirty Hippie. I think is what it's called. I think
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
I didn't order that one because I love the Blacksmith a lot, and in fact I picked up some Smithwick's just to make those, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. But I did have one when we were out and about. So
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. But it was fun. We fairly low profile. We didn't go crazy. We're of a certain age now to where we're not having 30 pints on St. Patrick's Day. But if we get us some Americanized Irish food and a pint of Guinness, we've celebrated. I think we both had some green on that day. So what more can you do, really? I mean,
yeah,
we kind of put it all out there.
I think the thing that really kept us from really going all out is I didn't think about it until much later, but there wasn't a single green beer to be seen. Like that place,
There
I think
wasn't.
in the past
No.
has
Yeah.
dyed their beer green. All of the beer was just normal colored beer, and it just never struck me as anything. Like I just had my Guinness, and I was like, "Hey, cool, corned beef and cabbage and Guinness," and I'm like, "Awesome, this is great." And later on, I'm like, "Hold on a second, there was no green
No
beer."
green beer. People take firm stances on that, man. I mean,
Yeah,
and I think you and I have talked before. I think we're of the same mindset on that. I don't care if you drink a green beer on St. Pat. If that is the way you choose to celebrate your holiday, then do it, man. I've dyed it myself before when I didn't have one handy. I've made my
it's
own
just
green beer. It's just fun. It's stupid fun, is
it's
what it
stu-
is. And sometimes stupid fun is absolutely appropriate and acceptable. So live your life out there, green beer drinkers. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Even the craft crazies, that's where it usually comes from, is the craft beer drinkers. They consider it an abomination. And but God, you have your fun, man. It's not like you're drinking it year round. It's one day a year that we act silly and have one or two green beers.
it's just the tiniest drop of food coloring. Like if you do it right, it's seriously, it's nothing.
Yeah,
It's like less than the amount of water. If you rinse your beer glass before pouring your beer, as you should in a properly clean glass, it's actually less volume than the water on the sides of your glass when you pour your beer into it, and it turns it green.
just a
It
dab.
seriously
Just
has
a dab.
nothing in terms of impact to it. It's silly, yes, but yeah, it's not. It's
So
nothing more than that.
Brian, we talked about this guy over the weekend, and I don't remember his name, but I think you did. He's an influencer guy that does videos, an Irish guy. And the only thing I know is at the end of it, he goes, "Follow me, I'm delicious."
Oh
And
yes, Garen. Yes.
Garen. So I was scrolling through, and of course, he's got plenty to say about St. Patrick's Day and that. And in accordance with what we talked about from Colm from Guinness, he was talking about the food. He's like, corned beef, that's not it. I think he said bacon and cabbage. I forget already.
It's
Bacon and
not Irish
cabbage or
bacon. Yeah, something like
potatoes
that.
or
Yeah.
he's a potato lover, just absolutely crazy about potatoes. But he had a video where he was showing them dyeing the river green in Chicago. And I think he started out with something like, "Oh, the Americans are on one again," or something like that.
Yeah.
So he just ranted a little bit about dyeing the river. He's like, did anybody ask the fish what they think about this? Like, what are they doing down there? I bet they don't care for it. So he had a little rant about dying the river, and I think he generally is entertained and disgusted by some of the American habits around St. Patrick's Day.
He definitely makes a lot out of reacting to all things American, and I just enjoy watching him get emotional about what people do to both tea and potatoes. Like
Oh
if you
yeah,
do
oh
bad
yeah.
things to potatoes or do weird things to potatoes, as you'll see probably done on TikTok all the time, he'll get angry.
He doesn't care for it.
He'll raise his
Yeah,
voice and he'll start swearing and swearing with his Irish accent. It's
he's
delightful,
entertaining.
honestly. Yeah, it's good stuff.
He seems like a fun guy.
I gotta watch it. I like anything he says, even if I don't really care that much about it. I usually
Yeah,
watch it just because he's so much fun.
good stuff, man. Brian, let's move on to our beers of the week here, and we got Brian. What you got going on for the week?
So I pre-gamed with one of the aforementioned Smithics, which is a good old Irish red ale, and I bought some, like I said, to make blacksmiths, and I will be doing that at some point. I don't know if that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen tonight, maybe it'll happen on the weekend. It's going to happen, like it just hasn't happened yet. But now I'm working on New Holland's Dragon's Milk Emerald IPA, which is an oak barrel fermented double IPA with lotus and citra hops. It's kind of a trip. It's not quite like a creamsicle type of thing, but it's got a little. It's kind of skewing in that direction. And when I was putting my beer list together for the show, I'm like, I realized after like it was too late to change it out. It's like, oh, this is an 11%er, so I'm like, I'm going to sip this one kind of slowly. It's a little bit of a beast, so. And when I get done with that, and I do like it. I think if you see that around, get it. It works out pretty well. It's a trip of an IPA. After the show, perhaps if I'm still standing or sitting, upright, I'm going to get into Irish Cream Barrel Aged Stout from Boulevard, which is something we talked about. I think we talked about in the show. I think I recommended it in my Truck and Tap beer picks for the week. Last week or the week prior, but it's an imperial milk stout made with milk sugar imported from a Holiday Distillery, the maker of Five Farms Irish Cream in Ireland. So it's imported milk sugars in this beer. So I've had one, and I'm not sure what I think of it. So I'm going to sip on it tonight if I get around to it and see what I think. So that is
Fair enough,
what I'm
man.
planning to do.
Yeah.
Tim.
Biraquois Nation said, with your beard, you got to own anything over 10%. Your beard says you got to just take it, Brian.
All right, I'm going to do it.
There he goes.
Nobody's stopping me. The beer certainly isn't. So
right. A little bit of Beer Guys Radio lore. Back when we were on the radio, when we started the show, the first several years, I think 6 or 7 years of the show, we were on the radio. We started as a local radio show, and then we were syndicated, and we had to do the show in segments to match with the radio clock. And in between radio segments, we'd take a little break and drink. And of course, when we were in a studio with guests and each other and that, the beer, it flowed a little more regularly in the social setting like that. So we used to joke about the fourth segment because by the time we get to that, especially if we were sharing a few beers, there would be times when we were a little tipsy. And there was one time we did a remote show at a beer fest here, Day of the Juice, I think it was. And we sat down. Was it Finback or I maybe mixed
Old
up
Nation
which brewery
was right
was.
next to us. M43 or
Yeah.
M43? Yeah.
But this was back when Aaron was on the show, and we finished, quote unquote, finished the show, and Aaron's like, I forgot to record this segment. It was like the second segment of the show. And I'm like, oh no. And so we go get the guys, and I was like, guys, we absolutely hate to ask this, but something happened with the recording. Can we chat with you again? They're like, sure. Now, this was probably 30 minutes after we were done with the show and towards the tail end of the beer fest. And y'all, we were all at least 2.5 sheets at that time. And so this show, we start off totally sober. In the second segment, we sound like a group of half a dozen drunk guys trying our hardest to sound sober. And then we go back to sober in the third segment because of the way the show flowed there. So
That's
that
right.
reminded Brian sipping 11% beer during the show today reminded me of our 4 segment days back then.
uh,
So
every segment can be fourth segment if you try hard
if you
enough.
try hard enough, put your mind into it, man.
So
Absolutely.
the reference to Old Nation I was making, I thought you were going in a different direction. We were seated next to Old Nation, and they were hooking us up with cans of M43, and we were loving it. It was pretty new to us at the time. In fact, I don't think it had ever been in Georgia prior to that.
That was their
festival.
debut. Yeah.
And so
That's
we were
what got 'em
drinking it
here.
up, and thought we were done with the show. Yeah, it was Finn back
And
then.
then they gave us a case of tall
yeah,
boys
that's
at the
right.
end. It was wild. It was a good time though. It was a lot of fun. Well, Brian, moving along to our stories here, we've got a Tilray Brewdog update. One day, I'm sure these guys will run into the obscurity of the news, but right now there's still a lot going on with them. So, Brian, some other information the last time we talked about them, we mentioned that there were other assets that they had not acquired as of yet, but they were likely to or something, and that has changed some. So, what's the latest update on Tilray Brewdog?
Yeah, I think we all knew it was going to happen, but Tilray is officially acquiring Brewdog's U.S. assets also, and those assets include the Columbus, Ohio production facility, the Brewdog Hotel. The hotel's going to stay around; it's not going anywhere apparently, and the airport location also in Columbus, and other high-profile pubs in Ohio, Las Vegas, and Denver. The Atlanta location that abruptly closed last week, or maybe the week prior, I don't remember which. That apparently was not part of the deal, which is I'm pretty sure is why it closed when it closed. They do need to get some regulatory approval to move forward with this deal. So if we see them in the news again, maybe it'll be because that didn't happen. But I'm sure there's really small chance of that happening, very small. And who else is going to step in and buy these things right now? It's not the most wonderful time to buy a big brewery like this. So Tilray now owns the entirety of the Brewdog brand and the intellectual property worldwide, having already closed deals in the UK, in Ireland, and for the Australian business units, which I think that happened during the week of our St. Patrick's Day show, and they picked up a bunch of stuff over there. There's not a lot there, but I want to say that they valued it at less than $20 million, what was there in terms of the assets. Anyway, yeah. This move fills a geographic gap for Tilray. It gives them a foothold in the Midwest and the Southwest, where they previously lacked a good regional presence. Brewdog's Columbus facility is huge. It produced over 89,000 barrels in 2024. It could be scaled up to do as much as 150,000 barrels, apparently. So there's a lot of potential there. It's ready, outfitted to produce non-alcoholic beers and other beverages, including craft sodas. And so this adds nearly 90,000 barrels or possibly more to Tilray's portfolio. But and they remain the fourth largest craft brewery, and craft in quotes, I should say, but on the Brewers Association list, placing them behind Sierra Nevada at number 3. And I haven't done the full math, but I think they're trailing Sierra Nevada by about 100,000 or to 150,000 barrels. Like they could get up there, but there's still a little distance between them and Sierra Nevada, even with this big jump. So,
man, I tell you, that's such a misleading statistic. That a company gets in and just buys their way into being a top quote unquote craft brewery. So
yeah.
But so be it. And as far as regulatory approval, I mean, you look at the breweries that AB InBev or Miller or any of them own. I don't think there's any way Tilray can be anywhere close to the size. If they've got to get the approval there. I know Tilray's not about to become bigger than AB InBev or one of those.
I'm kind of surprised they're at a point where they need the regulatory approval, but they're kind
They've been making a lot of acquisitions, though. I mean, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, oh, they're to that point now. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
I didn't look into it, but I'm wondering what has to happen before you need that kind of thing. Maybe it's because they're a publicly traded company. You can buy shares of Tilray. So maybe that's what it is.
Again, I'm torn between they have to have some amazing master plan and they're just all stoned. And, so I don't know, because it seems like a crazy time, even for pennies on the dollar. We were talking, what was it, 43 million, Brian? 33 million pounds, I think is what it was.
In that range, yeah. About
that's
43
still a lot
million.
of pounds. I mean,
that's a lot of pounds. And probably under, like They haven't actually valued the acquisition of the U.S. The properties and the
Right.
Australian ones, but in both cases, I think they're under 20 million for what each of those has. So maybe
Yeah.
we're looking at like tops 80 million for all this. I know it's a lot of capacity, a lot of possible. Well, they're I forget what it was. They're also going to be picking up production for it. Now I shouldn't have said anything because now I can't think of it. But they're also partnering up with is it Heineken? I think, right?
Who that they're doing the
Tilray.
Oh,
You
it's Carling or
Oh yeah,
Carlsberg.
Carlsberg. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
they have a deal to produce a fair amount of stuff. Now they've got a facility. I was thinking, it's like, all right, well, they're really gonna put that Sweetwater Brewery to work producing all this. No, they're probably gonna have a lot of that going through the new BrewDog facility. I'm guessing. So they've
I
got.
guess so, man.
They,
Maybe that's part of the master plan there.
that's what I'm thinking. They've got the people that need that kind of capacity. So they're gonna put it to work right away. I hope it works out for them because otherwise, I mean, what else are these BrewDog facilities going to do? They were not going to survive. So yeah,
Yeah. Interesting stuff, man. O'Brien, Sycamore Brewing, for those that don't recall, we talked about them last year. There was a scandal there where one of the owners, had some very, very strong allegations against him with some, underage people there. And of course, the brewery took a hit. He left immediately. I believe it was his wife or former wife stayed on the business and that. But there's more changes and update. The brewery's moving forward, but making some changes. So, Brian, what's the latest there?
yeah. I think the last we heard, or the last we reported, is the brewery had temporarily shut down to make some changes, and including reportedly changing their name. I don't know if I think we may have mentioned that. Well, this week we learned out that they did in fact reopen as Club West Brewing this past Saturday. Not only that, but Sarah Taylor, the co-owner of Sycamore, or co-founder of Sycamore and the owner of Sycamore right now, has agreed to sell 100% of the company to Brad Bergman, the current director of brewery operations. The sale and the rebranding are clearly efforts to distance the brewery and themselves from the fallout surrounding the former co-owner, Justin Brigham. Like, as you said, he was arrested for some alleged horrible acts involving children. And it seems like completely removing Brigham from the ownership and involvement in the brewery's day-to-day activities was not enough. Sarah Taylor's connection to her now ex-husband was just too toxic. So apparently a complete break from the founders, for this brewery to survive was required. And I'm reading a little bit into that and speculating, but that seems to be the message. Before they shut down, the last we heard, there was no talk about her selling the thing. So
Right.
the brewery is
Yeah.
being sold completely. So it seems like these actions may have saved the brewery. It's possible. Reportedly, the place was packed when it reopened this past Saturday. But here's the thing: will the retailers who dropped Sycamore start buying beer from Club West Brewing? Who knows? And will the crowds that showed up when they reopened keep coming back, or were they just there because, oh, hey, a new brewery opened, and then get bored of it and move on? I don't know what's going forward, but if they can keep crowds coming into the brewery, I think the brewery can survive. So
That checks out, Brian.
Yeah.
That checks out. If people keep going to the brewery could survive.
If they
Yes.
buy your product, you will survive.
That's
There we
it.
go.
That's it.
Yes.
Business 101 right there, man.
Indeed.
Absolutely. It's I'm making an assumption here that the wife honestly had no idea that anything was going on based on her actions. That seems it. So it's unfortunate for her that the stigma stuck with her through a business that it did seem like she didn't have any real interest in getting away from. So, but as a consumer in that, I definitely see, the public opinion there, with the connection. So hopefully it's good for the brewery. And Brian, do you know, and I'm sorry if you missed it. I was reading up on something else and looked through the notes here, but did anyone stay on with this? Like, do they have the same brewer?
Oh yeah, they're keeping.
So.
I think there was like 63 employees. They kept all of them. All of the
Okay.
employees are
All
keeping.
right.
I think they actually hired more people. I want to say it was in the neighborhood of 60 employees. I don't have the full numbers, but that was the big thing. They actually hired more people for the reopening, so all the employees stuck around, and so that's good. So the brewery is basically just a new name with the same people, without the ownership, the previous ownership, and I mean, it's a little sad, but I can understand why people, and I don't know the people involved. I have no idea, but I can see people just assuming like there's no way she didn't know something. There's no way she just looked the other way and let it happen. I'm like, I don't know. Like I think that's an assumption that nobody that doesn't know them can make. So, but I can see that that's something that people would assume, and like I'm not going to buy a product when I think that this is a possibility, but she's completely out or will be soon. And at that point, I'm like, where's the justification in you not buying this? Because they're gone, and now all that's left are people that just are trying to do a job and make some beer. You know what I mean? So
here's my thinking, man. Here's my thinking. And if it was a brewery in my area, I would make an intentional effort to try and support them. If it was a good brewery, they kept the same employees on, the bad seeds are out of there and all that. It's not their fault. What happened in the past is basically it. So if I go there, the beer is good, show them support, man. I mean, I would go out of my way to go there once, but what would keep me going back is it good? So
fair
I'd be
point.
like, hey, I'll support you guys. Sure. Let's see what you're doing with this place, So, but yeah, just like any brewery, man, I'd go check them out. If they were good, then I would continue to support them.
We did get some of Sycamore beers down here, and I think they were like right before this came out. They were part of our Christmas beer show, and it was a really good beer.
It was one of our top. I forget which place. I think maybe number 2, but they did like a Christmas cookie beer.
That's right,
and it was like we dropped our show on Saturday, and or I think maybe Friday night the news come out, and our show was already. I was like, great. All right, this figures.
There's just no way. There's no way for us to do anything about it. It's like, well, it's already in the can, and we didn't even see the news until like the next week.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good beer, man. If they're still making beer like that, then by all means. I've got a buddy in Ohio that mentioned he was a big fan of Sycamore because did we get that? Did they distribute here? Or was that cookie beer brought from somewhere else?
No, I think this is one we just picked off the shelf.
Right.
I've seen Sycamore on the shelf a fair amount, and their beer is. The beer is pretty good, and I always found their can art amusing. It trends towards almost like graffiti-ish art, kind of.
All right,
if I remember correctly.
We'll have to see if Club West gets out and makes it down here, and if they do, we'll have to see what they're up to.
I'll try it. Yeah, I'll give them a shot, assuming that they've gone through heroic efforts to try to make right what's wrong. From everything I can tell, like all I can do is give them the benefit of the doubt at this point.
Yep. Absolutely, man. That's it. Well, Brian, before we move on, how about we give a shout out to our friends at Truck and Tap?
That sounds like a good idea. So once again, we're in the grips of the spring weather whiplash. T-shirt weather and pollen one day, freezing temperatures the next. I think we're in the middle of freezing temperatures at the moment, but I'm not even going to guess what kind of beer will be appropriate for this weekend. And we did a good job of drinking Truck and Tap completely out of Guinness this past week, so let's switch over to some lighter drinking beers. Maybe it'll be nice out again. I think it's heading that direction, but who knows? So let's get into my Truck and Tap beer picks for the week. At Truck and Tap Woodstock, I'm going with Monday night's Gasoline Dreams. It's a hazy New England-style pale ale, which means it's considerably lighter than your typical New England IPA, ringing in at just 5.7% ABV. And I want to point out that's what IPA used to be back before the New England thing happened. Yeah, like 5.7, 5.5. That was IPA back in the day. But me yelling at clouds as the old man here. But it sounds downright flammable, these Gasoline Dreams, with flavors of dank resin, grapefruit, tangerine, and crushed grapes coming from Nelson Sauvin and Nectar on hops. It's all the thrill of danger without the actual danger, only 5.7%. At the Duluth location, I'm getting Rheingeist Juicy Truth IPA. Okay, this one's a little boozier than Gasoline Dreams, but only a little bit, like a percentage point. So, it's not full New England IPA, but... So they describe this as being mouthwatering, tropical, and juicy. At this point, I think we're all conditioned to start drooling whenever we hear an IPA is juicy, so the mouthwatering part is a little redundant, but it sounds great. I like Rheingeist, what I've had of theirs, and when I see it around, I do try to get it. But at Truck and Tap Alpharetta, my pick is Six Bridges Cold Conditions on the glorious side pull tap. It's a German Pilsner made with Ericlea malt, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's the way it looks. It apparently can produce light honey notes in a beer, and also it has German Magnum and Huell melon hops. This does sound like any weather beer to me, and I mean, seriously, German Pilsner off a side pull tap, yes, sign me up all day, every day. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, I'm going with Tripping Animals El Green Crippy, also on the side pull tap, 2 side pull taps this time. El Crippy is a crisp American Pilsner with earthy and herbal grassy notes, but hang on one second. This is El Green Crippy. That means it's a green beer, Tim.
Wow.
A green beer on the side pull tap. It's so delightfully ridiculous, I simply must get it. And if you get one, send me a picture of it in case I don't get one. I want to see it. But there you have my beer, Truck and Tap beer picks for the week. Get out there and have a beer or two. As always, if you'd like to see the full tap list before stopping by, take a look at truckandtap.com. The taps do change quickly, so you never know what great new beer might go on and which of these might disappear. And if you'd like to see what food trucks are serving and what events are happening, trivia, karaoke, live music, holiday parties of all kinds, you can also find that at truckandtap.com. Everything you need to know can be found at truckandtap.com, so check that out. And thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thank you, Truck and Tap. You know, Brian, speaking of green beer, Fantôme had one, or has, that I think
Yes.
they use spinach in it. And not one of my favorites from Fantôme, Brian. I will
I
say
can't think
that.
of what that one
but
was called, but yes, it was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. If anybody on the stream there remembers which one that was, the Fantôme. We don't have Nate here to Google for us. He's on assignment, Brian.
There
So
was a basil goose too, I think.
was
by
it
somebody.
green though? I was trying to
I
remember.
think-
That's
I want to say it was.
Spontan basil,
I think
right?
Spontan basil, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that was
I forget the brewery on that one too. We're getting too old. Our
yeah, I know.
our mind isn't working right. But yeah, the Fantôme, it was not great. And you know, that was one of my biggest issues with Fantôme, is that they were hit or miss. Like, I didn't find any consistency with their beers. So did not enjoy those.
I found it, and it wasn't. I'm looking at the pictures on Untapped right now. Spontan basil from Lindemans, and it was.
Lindemans,
and I
yeah.
couldn't think of who the collab was because I knew it was with another brewery, Mikkeller.
I thought it was Melkiller. They did a few. They had like Spontan basil, Spontan cherry, or something. But there were a few Spontans.
I think
in there.
There was a time when I know I went to some really good craft beer bar. I forget where it was, but they had the entire lineup with Mikkeller of Spontan everything. And I want to say it was in New Orleans of all places. But yeah, we went through and drank a bunch of them. This is going back a few years, back when that was the hottest thing, you know. Everything spontaneous, everything wild, everything. Yeah. Beautiful days. Miss those,
Wild,
but-
wild. Yeah, that's so AZ Cougars here is saying spinach and beer, magic ghost. That's did they say it in Dutch though, maybe? But or did they have another one? But it was we had to try it, Brian, you know, when we heard about it. But
That could be it. I mean, I see some pictures online of that, and it looks. Some of the glasses look like they're green, and some look like they're clear. So maybe different versions of it were more or less.
yeah, it was
green.
not a pretty color, and it was not delicious either. So
No.
yeah, I'm looking here. So yeah, we won't hold up here. But anyhow, yes. So Fantôme did one with spinach, and then we had the Spot and basil. That was it. So those were professional green beers, Brian.
I would try Spontan basil again because I do like basil.
Yeah.
I don't quite remember how it tasted. I don't remember thinking it was great, but I had a bottle at one point, and I think it got opened into bottle share. And
I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like a bottle sherry kind of beer. It's like,
Oh,
I want to
for
try
sure.
this, but I'm not sitting down and drinking this whole thing.
there's no chance I'm
So,
drinking all this. I'm going to make everybody else
Yeah.
sit through it with me.
Yeah. I got this beer here that tastes like a burnt car tire. I want to try it. Yeah, absolutely.
You must be talking about Tactical Nuclear Banquet.
Maybe I am, Brian. Maybe I am. Yeah. I think it's hilarious, man, whether it's food or, again, we're into colognes or craft beer. The nastiest ones, you want your friends to try them. So it's like, oh, this is awful.
yeah.
You got to try this.
Yeah,
You
so
gotta
this smells
try this.
terrible. Give it a smell.
Yeah. See, this literally smells like a donkey's south side. You got to check it out, man. Crazy stuff. Well, Brian, moving along, the UK, news from the UK, wild times over there. But the UK has started using NA beer as an inflation indicator.
Yeah, so yeah, drinking habits are changing the way the UK government calculates the economy in a very official way. The non-alcoholic beer has become so popular in the UK, but that the Office for National Statistics, or the ONS, now uses it to measure the country's inflation rate. Of course, the inclusion of non-alcoholic beer is a direct result of a broader consumer shift towards wellness and plant-based trends and all that sort of thing that we've been seeing. Uh, the ONS tracks 760 products. I think they call them a basket or something like that, as though you were shopping. They do that annually to ensure that they represent what modern consumers are actually buying. Essential items, they do change drastically over time, so new things go and other things get pulled out. For example, tea bags in the UK weren't added to that inflation tracking chart until 1980, which is crazy when you think about how long the British have loved and been buying tea and how they've obsessed over it over the years. So it wasn't until 1980, which sounds like a million years ago to anybody that's in Gen Z at this point. So I guess
1980.
I might
Again,
as well
Brian,
say prehistoric.
late 1900s there. So
late 1900s, yeah,
yes,
it checks out. So also joining non-alcoholic beer in the inflation calculation are hummus, which they spell weirdly over there.
Hummus.
Took me a minute to figure out what it was. Motorhomes, pet grooming services, and dashboard cameras, which kind of surprises me. Those are all typical expenses, but okay. What's interesting is that the ONS is apparently just now moving away from manual price checks to using supermarket scan data to figure out what their people are actually paying for, beer, groceries, and other things. And I'm wondering if this has anything to do with advancements in AI. And I guess we'll find out if we suddenly start seeing really wildly incorrect numbers associated with their inflation rates. But I guess they actually sent people out to go shopping and buy these things and see what they actually cost, which seems like a very weird and error-prone way to do things. But
it does. Yeah, some of the things that are still done manually are just kind of mind-boggling. Yeah, you're like, really? That's
in 2026, you're still just doing this manually?
Yep. That's gosh, man, it would date me. I mean, it's been 20 years ago, but we're talking the 2000s now, not the late 1900s again. But doing inventory for grocery stores, if anybody's ever seen this, you basically have a calculator that hangs. You use a hip belt, and it hangs on the side of your hip. And these people get, Brian, totally not beer related, but there's hired guns in the inventory world, like guys that are really fast with using one of these hip hanging 10 keys. And these guys, I mean, I'm talking like people who are contracted to go to tropical islands and stuff and do inventory because they're so fast and accurate with it.
I think I've seen this. It hangs down the side. They're just like spastically, with their fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious what they look like now, but they were fairly good size. I mean, it was a fairly large size thing like that hung down there. But if you ever go in and see someone looking at the shelf or something and just whacking on a 10 key calculator on their hip, I bet they've changed. That was 20 years ago, so I bet there's some update to technology. But anyhow, very manual to do these inventories in a store.
I'm just trying to envision, they send me to exotic places, islands and stuff. What do you do? I just I calculate inventory.
I do inventory, man. I go out and do inventory. That's it. Yeah, it's a weird world. That's what I want. I want a reality TV show about the lives of traveling inventory crews, because it would be ridiculous. So you'd never guess that, would you, Brian?
Their party lifestyle, that just getting lit up every night, partying like crazy, just rolling in cash. I'm like, how do these guys have so much money? All they do is add stuff up. I'm like, man, gotta master that 10.
Madness. Brian, craft move to cans is cooling. We know it's been an up and down. Going from bottles to cans. Cans were the cool thing, and now it seems that's cooling off. Brian, what's the scoop on cans?
Yeah, this is interesting. According to the drinks business and some comments from the Brewers Association, craft beer in the U.S. may be falling out of love with the aluminum can. After years of aggressive growth, the craft beer industry shift from glass bottles to aluminum cans does seem to be slowing down, and the that move to aluminum cans may actually be reaching a ceiling at this point. Where like we may come to a stop in terms of the growth anyway. As of 2025, nearly 4 out of every 5 craft beers are sold in cans, which I don't think will surprise anybody these days. Just go into any store, you can see it. A massive jump from even a few years prior to that. So every year it's been a big thing. And everything seemed to be chugging along nicely with the cans until March and April of 2025. And what happened then? Well, yeah, that's right. 25% tariffs were imposed on aluminum, which includes cans, forcing some breweries to reconsider their packaging choices. So the preference for cans isn't uniform across the U.S. Rhode Island is almost entirely cans. I think one of the biggest. They're like 92% of the craft beer that they have in Rhode Island that they buy is in cans. Whereas states like Mississippi, Kansas, and Louisiana still have bottles making up nearly half of the market. I think like 46% of their beer is still in bottles down there, which is interesting. It's definitely not that case to my recollection here for sure, but. Cans will always, probably dominate for outdoor activities, anything like that. But glass bottles will hold a strong niche for premium and special drinking occasion experiences. Opening a cork and cage of 750 of lambic is always going to feel fancier than cracking open a can. But on the other hand, a bag full of still lambic. I mean, that may be even more special than a cork and cage glass bottle. But anyway, anecdotally, I haven't seen a big shift to glass in my visits in the beer store, but I have seen it recently, and it kind of struck me as there's some new glass bottle options. Like, oh, that's in glass bottles now, and I can't specifically remember what it was, but I was a little surprised by it. I'm like, I would not have expected to see that in glass. It's typically something I see in cans. So I have noticed a little bit. I don't think that we're fully switching back to glass at this point, but we're definitely slowing down, I think. So, yeah.
I never had an issue with cans. For craft beer, okay. Back in the day, Brian, your canned beer was your cheaper beers, your drinking beers.
Yeah.
Your fill up a cooler and head out on the weekend kind of beers. If I got quote unquote nicer beer, I liked the bottles. I thought it was a more premium product there. And as craft grew and a lot more stuff was put in cans, I didn't mind it by any means, but I do still like a bottle. And like you talked about, especially with something like a 750 of, lambic, a goose, or even a big stout, the kind of the whole process of it there, the pomp and circumstance of opening one of those big bottles was always nice. It made it more of an event, made it nicer. But yeah, I don't mind. I like the convenience of cans, especially if you're going to have a few there. It's a lot easier to get rid of than toss those in the recycling bin than all those bottles. It's lighter to carry, that's for sure.
I'm thinking about it. Just remind me you saying that. What did we open? It was like a Jeroboam of. Was it a quad? St. Bernardus quad?
Probably St. Bernardus, yeah.
Yeah. At that, oh geez, they closed, but now
H-Mog.
It was an H-Mog. Okay, all right. I was thinking of something more recently, but I'm like, I've seen some larger bottles of like Anchor Christmas Ale. I'm like, man, bring those back.
They do some big ones. Or
I think we opened one of those in the studio too, and that was great. I'm like, those are fun. That's a lot of fun. And I got to point out with that sort of thing, you're not going to get that in a can, and that volume of beer is going to age differently and better, I think, than smaller bottles of anything. So I like that. I like that option when it's available. It's difficult now because nobody's buying that stuff, but man, I love it when you crack open a good quad in a large volume. I think that you do result in a better, more interesting beer at the end result of aging it. So
it does. It's nice. And we don't throw out acronyms and then not tell what they are. HMOG is Holy Mother of Gatherings, which is a big bottle share we had here in Atlanta. I haven't heard anything about it in the last couple of years. I don't know if I'm no longer on the VIP undercover list, or I know they were toning it down the last time I went, that because it got to be quite an event, and it was but that was where people brought out the best of their best. I mean, people would save up stuff all year for that bottle share to bring it out. You always had good stuff happening there.
It got wild, and the beers that you could have were
It was
incredible.
insane.
And
Yeah,
the problem was just trying to not drink too much and being able to remember what you did when you were there.
it was
I could
tempting,
see,
man.
I can understand them scaling it back because people just got lit. I mean that was a thing.
You
So
got a little
yeah.
crazy, a little wild, little wild. Well, Brian, we had our friends from Guinness on here last week, and more Guinness news this week. But Guinness has pioneered or did pioneer a statistical test that is now used by all of science. That sounds like a broad claim, Brian. What is going on?
It is, and it's something I didn't know about, or I would have mentioned it last week when we had Colm with us. But modern science owes a debt to Guinness for developing this statistical tool, and I'm not talking about the nitrogen pour or the widget they came back with, up with in the 1980s. They didn't invent that, and we should thank them for that. But that's not it. Back in the early 20th century, about 1906, Guinness sent their head brewer, William Seeley Gossett, to the University College in London. They needed him to figure out a way to ensure quality and consistency when scaling up production without having to test every single ingredient that went into the beer every single time. The problem was that testing small samples of hops for resin content it's difficult because these small samples often introduce noise that doesn't represent the whole crop. So, you happen to grab some really bad or some really good hops in your sample, and that's going to throw off your results. So you might think that, oh, these are really good, these are terrible hops, and it's just one or two hops that kind of make a mess of it. So how do you know if your small sample is good or in line with expectations? At the time, all anybody was doing in math and science was large-scale testing, which would ruin a lot of your ingredients. Just a huge amount of it, you test all of it, and that's how you knew. By comparing the averages of small sample sizes to the average of larger sample sizes, Gossett determined how much the two differed, and the process he invented was the t-distribution. His tests were later refined by a mathematician by the name of Ronald Fisher, which allows statisticians to determine whether the sample means differed from the population means, and means like in terms of a statistical sense. If they differed in a significant way. So if the sample mean differed from the population mean in a statistical way. Basically, is my sample more or less in line with the entire crop, or is it really off? Today, this mathematical tool is used by researchers in every scientific field from astronomy to zoology. And I basically stole that from the article because it was cute, A to Z. But yeah, it's just basically coming up with a way to statistically figure out if you've got a good sample, does this represent the whole or not? And can you use a small sample? Because before that, nobody knew how to do testing without testing everything. So pretty cool.
Okay. All right.
Sciencey and mathematicy.
Science.
It's a little,
science.
It's a
And
little
that's
deep.
what
Yeah.
I'm trying to see, because it's like they're taking a smaller sample size and comparing it to a larger sample size. But if they're taking the larger sample size anyhow, isn't that, I guess it would probably be a larger sample size, but it's not as large as it would have to be if they didn't use this T distribution.
So what you're looking for is you may have to do a large one to set up like an initial kind of goal, a baseline, and then afterwards you can, in the future, use smaller samples against that baseline.
I feel you.
You might invest a
Okay.
fair amount of your product in the first one, but then
You don't have to do it continuously.
yeah, and then you could
All
use
right.
some math to figure out, like, all right, are we in line? Or are we good here? Or do we have an issue here where this is like noticeably more resinous or less resinous in terms of hops, or
All right.
more proteins or less proteins in terms of like grains or whatever? So that's the idea. Heavy on the math, but very good in terms of reducing the waste of resources, basically, is what it winds up being. Because otherwise, you're just throwing a bunch of stuff away to test.
Trashing all your hops,
Yeah.
man. Your malt and hops to see if
Basically,
they're any good.
yeah.
Nobody wants that.
Hey, nobody does. So, like, once you rip them apart, you can't really put them into a beer. Like, they're all messed up, So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you could
Like,
throw them back in there, man.
I
Toss
guess
them on in the beer.
It's boiling. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
it's
toss
fine.
it
I
on
don't
there.
know.
All right, Brian, beer history, or historic beer, I should say. We always love hearing this kind of news. Another discovery. Discovering beer is great. This time in the US of A, in the state of Iowa, they discovered a 100-year-old beer cave.
Yes, a perfectly preserved piece of brewing history discovered in Iowa. It's a bit like stumbling onto a time capsule full of 19th century refrigeration technology. Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, the team renovating a property of an old brewery in Cascade, Iowa is the name of the city. They unearthed a beer cave that hasn't seen human contact for like a century. So there were rumors the cave existed. People like saw benches of it in I guess historical texts, but nobody had any kind of physical evidence, and there was no indication it was there. The discovery was made when the construction crews identified architectural structures during an excavation. So they started digging, and boom, there we go. Like there's arches. Before modern cooling, these caves were essential for maintaining a cold environment for beer storage and lagering, and it probably means that these caves were probably for hyper local beers. Like the beer that was stored and lagered there wasn't making it far away from that because there wasn't refrigeration to take it elsewhere. So very regional or very like close knit, probably neighborhood drinking stuff, but not far from the caves. Anyway, the massive subterranean structures were built entirely with physical labor, probably assisted by horses, and basically no modern machinery. That's what they're saying anyway. The state apparently has a long history of these underground cave networks, particularly in Iowa City, another city in Iowa, obviously. And they were used for both making beer and moving beer around. And it's also possible that there's a connection with this beer cave and bootlegging during the Prohibition, though that's a little bit of speculation at this part. There's no actual specific evidence for that, but the timeline works out really well. Prohibition about 100 years ago is when it started. So, and there was I saw some references to an Iowa City, I think a beer mafia is what they called them. So there were things going on in this area with results to caves and people trying to avoid the early stages of Prohibition by hiding their booze in caves. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So the interesting thing is with these, I've seen other things where caves like this are discovered, and obviously we're not going to use it to age beer, but I have seen where people have used caves like this. They've bought them, and they use them to age cheese, your cave-aged Gruyere. So it's possible, maybe, that they've discovered this. This may become a cave for aging cheese in the future, which would be a very cool thing. But again, there's no reason to believe that. I think they're trying to turn the whole thing into like apartment buildings, which would be kind of a tragic shame. But
we've got a little beer cave beer cellar history here in Atlanta, Brian. So the Atlantic Brewing Company, that was one of Atlanta's historic breweries, and they survived prohibition by selling ice. They sold ice in that, but what is now the underground parking garage for the Atlanta Hilton, where Dragon Con and stuff is held.
Yeah.
That was previously their beer cellar area there. So a historic brewery's beer cellar is now a parking garage for a Hilton hotel right here in Atlanta.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
Fascinating stuff, isn't it, man? I do like stuff like that. So I say it kind of jokingly, but I think that kind of stuff is cool, man. And they did, I did, when looking up some information on historic breweries in Georgia, we have the Atlanta History Center has some good articles in that from way back about some of the old breweries that were here and that. And I just, I find that pretty interesting. I have a very, very small collection of Breweriana, which is a word I will continue to struggle with actually saying, but I've got like half a dozen bottles. Some of them, I think my oldest one is like late 1800s. I've got a bottle like 1890s from a brewery out of Macon, Georgia. And we actually had a listener of the show a few years ago. They found an invoice, again, I think from the late 1800s. It was for delivery of like 2 cases of beer, and it was like $1.23 or something like that. And they're like, "Hey, I've heard you guys talking. I thought this is something that may interest you. I have no use for it." And they sent it to us, which was very nice of them because I do like stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
Brian, NA beers all over the place, and celebrities love to put their names on some liquor that seems like something that is super popular, whether it's a gin or vodka or whatever. But now George Clooney is going to put his name on some non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, apparently George Clooney made a killing with his, I forget what it was, Casamigos or something like that, tequila. So he's moving away from tequila, and I think other celebrities are moving away from like tequila and other spirits. They're starting to look at the beer cooler. So George Clooney Randy Gerber and Mike Meldman. I don't know the other two, but I know who George Clooney is. They have partnered to create a non-alcoholic beer called Crazy Mountain. The brand is launching with 2 lagers, original and lime. They are, of course, looking to tap into the explosive growth of NA beer. They see an opportunity here, obviously. And, there's a wellness trend and all that sort of thing. So, of course, the beers are low calorie. Each 12-ounce serving contains about 65 calories. Instead of removing the alcohol after the beer is brewed, this is kind of interesting to me, they're following the path of making beer that never had alcohol in the first place, but they don't specify how they're doing that. They call it a unique process, and they don't say if that's a special strain of yeast, which we have heard is a thing that some people are able to do now, or if it's something else, like chemically, science-y, something that they're doing. No idea, but apparently Crazy Mountain is currently rolling out to select markets, but you can buy it directly from their website if you'd like to give it a shot, unless you live in Georgia. So crazymountain.com. 2 6-packs will set you back $27.98 plus shipping. And I found out that they don't ship to Georgia because I went in there to try to figure out how much do they hit you up for shipping, so I could tell people that. They told me they don't ship to me. They wouldn't tell me what the shipping was, so I have no idea. So it's going to be a little bit more, but you're looking at we're getting close to $14-ish for a 6-pack, and you have to. They do them 2 at a time, so you don't order just one; you get 2. So I don't know what shipping is for that. I hope it's inexpensive, but the cans are interesting. They're basically cowboys, like riding a horse and like doing some roping. So they're in the process of roping something or other. Very very bright, colorful. They basically look like they're wrapped with a very nice picture of cowboys. So yeah,
fancy, Brian.
Yeah,
fancy.
Pretty neat.
It does sound nice, man.
I wish them luck.
It does sound nice. Yeah, back when non-alcoholic beer first started shipping, they did ship to Georgia. That's Athletic Brewing. I got a couple orders from them and had them shipped to Georgia, and then I went in there and went to order and couldn't pull it. They're like, we can't ship to your state. And we know the fellows over there at Athletics. I love it. You have a problem with shipping, so you just email the president and founder of the company.
That's right.
And ask him what's up. So,
What's going
but he's
on?
like, yeah. He's like, no, Georgia. They flew through. Basically, it was one of those things, and we've had a lot of issues like this where there's no law specifically prohibiting something, therefore it's technically legal. But as soon as someone tries to make something legal, they're like, oh, we didn't know you were doing that, and it becomes illegal kind of thing. So, but the short of it is that Georgia classifies non-alcoholic beer in the same category as alcoholic beverages. So therefore, can't ship it into the state of Georgia.
I know we can't talk sense into these people. They're bought and paid for. But the thing is this never had alcohol to begin with. So this is not just non-alcoholic. This is alcohol free, or the other terminology, which there was never booze in this to begin with. So it should never be treated the same way. It's unless this is done in a very weird way under bad controls or whatever. There's no chance that this has alcohol in it. Like, this is perfectly safe for anybody to drink.
Not happening
assuming
at all.
It's stored and made properly. I mean, obviously I can't vouch for what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing, but
that sounds sus, Brian. It does sound sus.
I have to say that because now I can, like, somebody's like, well, Brian said it was great and perfect. I'm like, no, I didn't. I don't know what they're doing. They haven't told me anything. It's like, yeah, they'll have to at least send me a 6-pack before I'll sell out my credibility like that. Come on,
George, send us a 6er, George.
Yes.
Let's see what's up on it.
No, 2 6-packs. That's the only way they ship. It's got to be 2.
That's it. Oh, okay. There you go. Make it easy. All right, good stuff. Well, y'all, that about wraps it up for our show this week. We appreciate you joining us and hanging out. Again, if you enjoy what we're doing here, we would love it if you would tell a friend to tune into the show. If you really enjoy what we're doing, then go to patreon.com/beerguys. We'd appreciate your support there. And again, if you are a Patreon supporter, you get into our Discord, and we'll also give you a link each week after the live stream to join us for the after party. With all that said, we hope that you do have a really, really good week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.